So I've had a lot of difficulty setting up these block planes. Um, this one is one that was given to me by a friend. It's pretty old. I can't remember what pattern. Stanley. Okay, here it is. Stanley. 51. I can't. It's barely legible. But it's a really simple design. The blade is tightened down with the screw here, and then you have to tap it with a little hammer to adjust it. This actually works quite well. I'm able to do some work with this. This is a modern one. It's the cheap version of a Stanley block plane. It's a regular, not a low angle one, and you can see that it doesn't have any adjustment for the the opening, the throat. Is that what that's called? I forget. I just can't get this thing to perform at all. I mean, I've spent hours fettling this, as Paul Sellers says, flattening the bottom. I'm not sure that I have it exactly right. I've sharpened the blade endlessly. I also took some advice from David Fink's book on planes, on how the bottom should be flattened on a block plane. And I tried to do it the way that David Fink suggests in this book. I don't know what I should expect from this thing. I mean, I see, if you go on YouTube and look at people with a high-end Lie-Nielsen or a Veritas block plane, and they sharpen it beautifully, and then they can take a nice shaving off the end grain. I can barely get this thing to cut reasonably well on, on parts of the wood that aren't end grain. I don't know. I don't like this design. I have to admit, I don't like this. I know people have used these for years with great success, but the thing that bugs me about this is that the pressure on the blade by this lever cap or whatever it's called is fussy. You need to get it not too tight. If it's too tight, you can't adjust it, and it's as all the advice on the internet and in David Fink's book points that will distort the cast iron body of the plane. If it's too loose, things just the blade pops loose, or it gets out of adjustment. But the thing that particularly annoys me about this is that you've got your hand right on the part that will throw the adjustment of the blade out of kilter. And that makes it even more essential to have the tension on this exactly right. It just strikes me as a dumb design, but what do I know? I'm a beginner, and other people use these with no problem. I don't really like block planes much anyway. I don't know. Anyone have any advice on this? I mean, I'll show my sharpening station here. This is Paul Sellers inspired. So I've got the 3 diamond plates set into a whopping big chunk of cedar that I put together. And also, as Paul Sellers does, I use the strop with the polishing compound, and then finally just a plain leather strop. By the time I'm done with this, I guarantee you the blade in here is sharp. I mean, I'll do the paper cut test and touching the back of my thumbnail with the thing. It's sharp, so it's not a problem with sharpening. At least I don't think it is. But all right, let me see if I can give an example of how this thing doesn't really work. Okay, so this is a little piece of white ash. There's tons of this wood around because of the emerald ash borer that's killed all of our ash trees here in Ontario, and much of the rest of the world. It's pretty hard. Grain can be kind of funny. So I'll set this plane up here. Hang on. All right, that's pretty good. So too deep. I'm not sure about the grain orientation here. Let me check the grain on this piece. Kind of ambiguous. I don't know. I'm not great at reading grain because I'm a beginner. I'm going to turn this out until... Now, I grant you that I'm trying to plane a piece of wood that's a little rough on the surface to begin with. But I mean, look, I have one good plane. I have a Lee Valley, a Veritas low-angle jack plane. And that thing is absolutely fantastic. It just, I've never, all the struggling I've done with my eBay purchased post-World War II Stanley planes, I don't know. I mean, is this really supposed to cut as badly as that? Or am I just an idiot? Well, actually, it's entirely possible that I am just an idiot. But I mean, that's just, I don't know, it just kind of sucks. And look, here's the point. Putting a lot of pressure on here. All right? Put a lot of pressure either on this rounded surface here, or if you're not paying attention, you can get your hand right on the adjusting knob, and it just tends to throw the thing out of whack from time to time. I guess that's kind of making shavings. I don't know. But to use Paul Sellers' expression, I'm bulldogging. I have this like, holy crackers. You know, that's a lot of effort. Maybe that's just the way block planes work. I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I have no problem using a block plane to do this. You know, break the edge a little bit, okay. But that's not very challenging. But this, I mean, look, ash isn't that hard. I've got a piece of maple here. This is laminated, 2 pieces actually. Brown maple, which is hard maple, but with, you know, doesn't have a pure white color in it. This is going to be a rudder plane. I bought Stumpy Nub's plan for a rudder plane. And this stuff is tough as can be. It is really tough compared to the ash. Now, I know it's not a tropical hardwood, but maple is pretty tough and fine grain too. I can plane this no problem with my Veritas low-angle jack plane. If I try and do anything on this wood with this block plane, it's just misery and grief and sweating and chattering and, man. So, I don't know, what's my point? My point is, I admit that I'm not expert at this, but this plane doesn't perform well. My Lee Valley, my Veritas plane does perform well. And even this little cheap older Stanley just works a lot better than this modern thing. Modern, cheap thing. But I mean, this is cheap too, right?